So I want to talk a little bit about the about Python 100.3 is what we talked about in class. And effectively what we have is we have part of the issue here is that we need to eventually take this information that we get from the server, and we're going to need to break that apart. And we're going to need to break it up into pieces. So a couple different ways you could approach this problem. You could think about it in terms of looking at each character and doing a series of tests. You could walk through the whole sequence. You could try and break it up maybe at the colon and convert. One of the things that we can do is we can actually use a method on this string variable. But I want to show you really quickly a couple things. One is maybe just some different ways that we can think about this. So I'm going to open up a document where what I have done is I have done some Python statements here, and I'm just simply looking at this value, and I'm saying, okay, if C is a string, and the reason why it's a string is because I have put quotes around it, and we can use the type function to have it tell us what class of variable it is. In this case, a string. But if I set C equal to number, and I can see, oh, it's an int. It's an integer. And so if I were to go into my my idle editor here and utilize a couple little things, and that is the let me make this bigger here. Let's see. I don't think I can. I don't think I make it bigger, but yeah, anyway, if I use the dir vec, so let me just say C is 0, and then B is space 8. Okay. So if I look at type of C, I see that it's an int, and if I look at type of B, I see it is a string. Now, what I can use is a directory, and I can see the directory of this object, C, and then I can do the same thing, and I can look at. Now, this will tell me all of the functions that are written for this particular type of variable, and it will tell me all of the different methods that I can use on this. A method is like a little mini program. And so when I use a method, it usually takes some input. It's kind of like a built-in function on this. And so this string, which is B, notice it has a lot more methods on it necessary than the numbers. And so the number as an integer, I can't necessarily do as much to it, but I may not necessarily want to, right? I'm just going to do these methods. But a string, I can do quite a bit more. So, for example, if I wanted to utilize a string method, and I'm gonna say, well, my string is hello, and I can utilize the method upper on B. Now I'll need to do a print command right there in order to make that show up. But you see that it converted it, and it didn't change the variable at all. It just recasted it. About B dot starts with. And so what I'm looking for is does it start with H? And so the answer is false, right? It doesn't start with H. Because in this case, it starts with little h. And so that's a method. And so another method we see is, that we have in this particular string is the method split. And so um, with split, I can take this string and I can split this out into its component parts. And so that is what I have done here. And I'm going to comment this out. Let's see. So what I changed my string here to add these numbers together, right? And so what I've done is I've split out um, split. And so notice that when I did that function, it gave me a list of all of the components of this variable broken out already and separated by spaces. So the only real thing that I need to do is I need to test and see if if this particular part is a number or not. And so if I look at the methods that I have, I can see that I have several different ones. Is it alphanumeric? Is it alpha? Is it numeric? Right? I can ask those questions about this and make decisions really, really easy. And so that is what I have done here. And I have actually built some extra stuff in, but let me go ahead and uncomment. Okay, now I'll run my program. And what I'm doing is I'm really just making sure that my program will actually go through and break apart and make a decision whether or not this portion of the string is numeric or not. And if it is, it'll show me. So I'm tracking this counter as I go. So before we add the number 0, and then we add 43, and then here's the next one, and then before we add it's 43, and then we add 77. I'm just keeping track of the number, and so what I'm actually doing here is um, testing the first. I'm just testing that first character. So if it was subtract, or if it just started with an S, um, it would actually subtract the numbers together, and so we get a little bit different answer in that case. And at that point, I would, whatever my answer is, I would actually put it back into the socket. The one thing that we found out when we were doing this is that sometimes the socket would still contain a couple of spaces, maybe that from the old variable. And so, whenever before you actually write to the socket, you just want to, for example, I'll print out the str num plus some spaces. Okay? And that will make sure that whatever I send over to that socket um, actually clears out whatever's there. So on the other side, what's happening is that Sam is taking whatever I send him and he's converting it to a number, obviously. And because this is a TCP connection, the connection stays open, and so it hasn't closed, and so the system knows how to keep track of it that way. Now, one thing that I didn't do is I didn't actually open up a port, but I could have. I could have done this in Linux, and I could have opened up a port, and I might do that actually to show you how that actually works. We can see what that socket actually sends over. Um, and we'll do that in a future class. You can see it actually send the data over. Um, but so once you get those numbers added up and you do it a number of times, eventually what I would do in this case, because you want to make it as general as you can, and so in this case, I would just go ahead and basically if the word that gets broken up is flag, then you just need to print out the whole string and quit, right? So you don't have you can just do a pretty elegant solution this way. So hopefully that helps you get through the 100.3 and gives you some Python goodies as well. So especially that dir function. So remember dir whatever object I've created, even if I make a socket. So um, what are the methods that I can use on the socket? I can use any of these methods that I want on the socket. So a little bit of exploration. If my socket is called S and I want to see what is set stock opt, and I open my parentheses, I can see that I would need these particular parameters in there. And now I don't know what all of them do, but that is what I would consult documentation for. So s.send all, what kind of data do I want to put in there? And then what flags do I want to use? Right. So our CV is buffers and flags. Our CV into, right? And I can basically um, put that into a buffer, right? So lots of things that could be with the methods here on a particular type of or class of variable. So what kind of class, what is the type of this? What is that? It is a socket, right? So if I look at the socket, right, these are the methods that I have on it, and I can utilize those and do things with them, set settings, and make changes, write data back and forth. Very, very basic data operations, but that is the way that the tools are designed, and that is the way that the adversarial tools are designed, is to do things as simple as possible.